Hello and welcome to this video, guys, where we will be putting together my top 5 cheap alternatives to using very highly desired and highly expensive icon cards. Now, as you can see here, we have got a selection, 5 top very desirable icon cards that we would all love to have in our teams. But like me and most people in the game, we can't always afford all of these icon cards. We don't always pack them. We're not always lucky enough to end up with loads of icons in our teams, as some of the top YouTubers do have pretty much from day one. But there are some really good cards that you can use instead that really replicate these ones. So I am here to show you those, and if you have any suggestions too, leave all of those in the comments below, because that really helps me out for future videos. I'll be sure to give you a shout out, as I did with all of these guys who were really kind enough to leave some great suggestions on previous videos of a similar nature. As you can see here, really helped me out, but they also help you guys out. Have a look in the comments below and see what other people are saying, see if there's any good tips that maybe you could leave or you could find in there as well. So we're going to start off with that being said, and we're going to take the 90 rated Henry, Mr. Vavavoom himself. And wow, what a card this is. I would love to own this card. 90 pace, 87 dribbling, 88 shooting and 85 passing. In an attacking sense, he can do it all. He is very lethal and a highly, really sought after player. Everyone loves Henry, and this card with its stats is also absolutely insane. Now, this card would cost you absolutely tons, but you can replicate it for around sort of 30k and under with Marco Royce. What a great card this is for dirt cheap. 86 rated overall, so obviously not approaching that 90 rating that Henry has, but still very similar stats. Now, the one thing you can never replicate with an icon card is that it will have chemistry to everyone, no matter where the league and nation of the players around them. They will always link with anyone, and that's one thing you can never replicate. But what you can see with Royce, he does replicate most of those stats very well. He is fast, he's got really good dribbling, his shooting is on point, and his passing is highly accurate. And for the price difference, you can't really argue too much. He's got a great league and nation. Royce is a very solid player, great in front of goal, really good with his dribbling, great range of passing too. We will quickly have a look and compare the attribute details, and as you can see, there are differences, but there are also some things that go in Royce's favour. His balance is higher than Henry's. That is a great thing, making his dribbling overall feel just as good. It might not be quite as good in certain areas, but overall it's very solid and probably just as good, if not better, than Henry's. Pace, he's not quite as quick, but he is still fast. Shooting, he is very accurate, and he actually possesses a little bit more overall than you might see with Henry's card. You know, so there are some very interesting bits that you can look at, and you can say, well, the shot power on Royce's card is better. Yes, his finishing and attack positioning isn't as good as this one, but he's also ridiculously cheap. So overall, I think he's a very solid player to be using, and lives up to that Henry card very well indeed. Now, we're going to go for our next card, and we're going to look at the 88 rated Shevchenko card. Now, this one is very good. Obviously not the quickest player in the world. 84 pace is usable, it's not amazing, but where he really stands out is that shooting. Great range of dribbling there at 85, and some decent physicality to his game with some okay passing too. And this card can be replicated relatively easily with Immobile, who I'll just go and put in now. So second in form Immobile, with his 86 rated card, does cost around 100k at the time of making this video. So he's not one of the cheapest players that you can be using, but he's a damn sight cheaper than icons, and very affordable for most people. He is an achievable player that you can get your hands on, and one that will decrease over time as better players come out, more informs, more team of the seasons, more special card, etc. This price will go down, and you can get this guy for very cheap. He matches up pretty similarly in all areas. The pace is very similar, the shooting overall is exactly the same. He's actually better with his physicality, not quite as good on the dribbling, but overall The two cards are very, very comparable, and the price difference is absolutely insane. Well, again, have a look at the attribute details, and as you can see, Immobile possesses some insane shooting. That 92 run of 3 stats on his shooting is just unreal. And it's very similar to Shevchenko, but actually better. In the areas that I would argue you need most, he delivers a better, sort of experience. Slightly better on the attack positioning, finishing and the shot power. Immobile really, really does deliver. He's not quite as good on the long shots as Shevchenko, as you can see there, but overall a very, very solid player. Shevchenko is a little bit more well-rounded on the dribbling, but the reactions are very, very good on Immobile's card. Pace, again, very similar, but actually Immobile is much quicker once he gets going. And in terms of heading, again, very, very similar between the two, if almost identical when you consider the jumping as well, and the strength is exactly the same. So overall, two very, very solid players, but yet Immobile can recreate that Shevchenko card for very, very cheap indeed. Now we're going to go and take a look at another 88 rated card in the form of the Icon Kluivert card. Really nice card. Everyone likes Patrick Kluivert, a great player from years gone past. And he possesses some really decent stats. He's a bit quicker than Shevchenko, not quite as good on the old shooting or dribbling, but a well-rounded card, nice range of passing, and some very, very good stats overall. And I believe you can recreate this card and actually better it in some sense. With one of the most OP cards in the game, and very, very underrated card in my opinion, which is Jefferson Farfan with his inform card. Now, I've got him as a central midfielder, but that's not where he comes as standard, so ignore that. That's just where I've been using him in a specific team that I've built. But if you look at the stats, 86 to 85 on the pace, very similar. 84 and 85 on the shooting, very similar. Passing, Farfan beats him by a mile. Dribbling, he beats him, but again, very similar. And physicality matches up the same. So you're talking about an 88 rated icon card against a almost discard value 82 rated inform. It's absolutely insane. Yes, Farfan is much harder to get into your team. Obviously, Kluivert links to everyone, and he's also got a really strong nation. Farfan, on the other hand, not a strong league, not a strong nation, but a great super sub that you can use, and a really solid player overall in general. We'll have a look again at the attribute details, and as you can see, there is an absolute sea of green for Farfan. He really does deliver in so many areas. But when you actually look at the changes, there's not an awful lot going on. Yes, he's not quite as good at his close range finishing as Kluivert, and he doesn't make such great runs as Kluivert does, but he does have better shot power and long shots, which is always nice, especially if you do play him in a deeper role like I do. His vision is better, his crossing is miles better, free kick accuracy, etc. All very, very comparable stats that overall, I just think you're getting one hell of a bargain. This guy is definitely one of the bargains of FIFA 18, and really, really someone that I would highly recommend overall. Now we're going to go in and put Marco van Basten in next. And we're going to go and put in the player that you can get for a decent price. Yes, again, in a similar way to Immobile, he's not the cheapest option. But Robert Lewandowski, with his 91 rated card, is a really, really solid player, and one that will always be sought after, and so his price won't diminish too much if you do buy him. But as you can see, the stats are very, very similar. Van Basten's card is insane. I mean, he's got incredible dribbling and ridiculous shooting. Not the quickest, as with some of the other players we've seen in this lineup, but still a very, very solid icon card. Now, Lewandowski has a very similar amount of pace. Also incredible shooting and very strong dribbling. For what is a slower player, one that's maybe a bit more robust and a bit more of a hold-up player that then also has incredible finishing. These two match up very, very well in my opinion, and Lewandowski is always a nice player that you can use in your team instead. Looking at the attribute details, as you can see, he's got ridiculous shooting, great attack positioning, finishing and shot power, which matches up very similarly to Van Basten. Now, Van Basten is miles ahead in certain areas. His attack positioning, his finishing is unreal. But in fairness to this card, and considering the price difference, which you always have to consider, it's not a bad option. It's not a bad alternative. The two are very, very comparable. Yes, Lewandowski isn't quite as quick, and he does fall short a little bit. But overall, the two of them combined, actually really, really similar. Both good in the air, both great with their finishing. You know, the one thing that Lewandowski does have is that extra little bit of strength, which is always good. He's a little bit more robust than Basten was, but overall still a very, very good alternative to what would be a million coin plus player that you can pick up for 100k instead. So not too bad at all there using Lewandowski. Finally, we have Mark Overmars with his left midfield 90 rated icon card. Very, very sexy card. Anyone who has more than 90 pace is always an attractive proposition, but when they have 95, I mean, that is just ridiculous. Then you throw in the amazing dribbling, really solid shooting and passing, and you just have a great option on your hands. And you can recreate this card to some extent with the following player, which is one that has always been popping up in these videos as people are recommending him to me, which is Inform Alessandrini. Now, the two of them do play on opposite wings, but I still wanted to include him because they are so similar. As you can see with the pace, very, very fast. 95 and 93, really, really good. Now, while Alessandrini's dribbling isn't quite as good as Overmars' 89 and 85, it's still up there, it's still decent. But where he excels is the fact that he does beat him a little bit in the shooting department. So if you are playing him more as a right forward like I am, you get a little bit more out of him there, which is always good. So he does beat him in that sense, and they're very similar again. They're at 81 overall with their passing. So the difference between an 82 rated Inform card and a 90 card, as you can see, actually not that big when you pick the right one. So we'll just go and have a look at the attribute details for the two of them here, and as you can see, the acceleration and sprint speed on Alessandrini is absolutely insane, but it doesn't quite live up to Overmars' ridiculous 96 and 94 combined. Shooting though, on the other hand, is really well rounded on this card. The attack positioning that Overmars has at 89 is unreal, and that doesn't live up to it on this card, but overall, with his finishing, the shot power and long shots that Alessandrini has, I would argue that his shooting is actually better. It's just that Overmars maybe makes a few more slightly more intelligent runs than Alessandrini does. The dribbling, on the other hand, I feel is very, very similar. If you look at the agility and balance that Alessandrini has, that is absolutely incredible and way better than Overmars. He doesn't quite live up to it on the old ball control and dribbling, as you can see there. Overmars' is ball control and dribbling at 87 and 90, whereas Alessandrini's is both at 82. But the dribbling is offset a little bit by the fact that he does have such incredible agility and balance, in my opinion. Both of them very, very similar overall, but slightly stronger in terms of Alessandrini's card. For me, he is a great option. Yes, he is about 60k, which isn't, you know, ridiculously expensive, but it's not cheap either compared with maybe Farfan and Royce. But what a great card you're getting in return, and very, very similar to Overmars, but one hell of a lot cheaper. So that brings the video to a close, guys, and I hope that I've been able to present you with some great alternatives to some really high rated icon cards that we'd all love to have. But yet these cards, these gold and Inform cards that you can actually achieve, you can get into your teams as I have done, and they will do a very, very good job for you, and they will replicate to a great extent what an icon will feel like in game. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, please smash the hell out of that like button. Leave any suggestions for me and others watching in the comments below, and peace.